The ground shook again, stronger this time. Dr. Alan Gibson steadied himself against his truck as the rumble passed through the Montana mountains. This was the third tremor this week. He checked his seismic equipment and frowned at the readings. These were not normal earthquake patterns. Any new data? Captain Samantha Ward approached, her military uniform crisp despite the dusty environment. She had arrived 3 days ago with a small team after reports of the strange activity reached government officials. Same as before. The vibrations are coming from inside the mountain, not along fault lines, Alan said, pointing to his laptop screen. And there's that energy reading again. Whatever it is, it's not natural. Greg Hawkins, whose ranch bordered the mountain, drove up in his old pickup truck. He looked tired and worried as he walked over to them. "My cattle won't go near the east field anymore," Greg said, removing his hat. "And last night I saw lights coming from inside the rock face. Not reflection, mind you. Actual lights, like something glowing from within." Captain Ward nodded. "We've detected unusual radiation patterns. Nothing dangerous, but definitely not normal for this area." Alan had been studying these mountains for 5 years, but had never seen anything like the readings he was getting now. The soil samples contained trace elements not found in Earth's geological record, and the metal fragments they'd discovered yesterday were unlike any known alloy. "The mining team is ready for the controlled explosion," one of Ward's soldiers reported. "Area is secured." They had planned this small blast to get samples from deeper in the mountain. Alan was against rushing the process, but the military had taken charge after the radiation was detected. "Proceed," Captain Ward ordered. The explosion was small but precise. As the dust settled, Alan rushed forward with his equipment. The newly exposed rock face contained a section of smooth, dark material that gleamed under his flashlight. "This isn't rock," he called out. "This looks manufactured." Captain Ward radioed for additional personnel as they began clearing more debris. The dark material expanded as they worked, revealing what appeared to be a curved hull made of an unknown metal. "Stand back," Ward ordered as her team set up perimeter lights. Alan couldn't believe what he was seeing. The exposed section was over 10 feet tall and curved like the side of a massive vessel. It showed no signs of wear despite being buried in the mountain. "How is this possible?" Greg whispered. "What is it?" Before anyone could answer, a low hum filled the air. The ground vibrated beneath their feet and the exposed section of the hull began to emit a soft blue glow. "Everyone back, now!" Ward shouted, drawing her sidearm. The military team retreated, pulling Alan and Greg with them. They watched from behind their vehicles as the glow intensified. Then, without warning, a portion of the mountain face simply dissolved, revealing a massive doorway where solid rock had been moments before. The humming grew louder. Alan's instruments were going crazy, detecting energy readings off the charts. In the darkness of the newly formed entrance, movement caught their eyes. 7 tall figures emerged, walking slowly into the light. They were humanoid, but clearly not human. Their skin was pale blue, their limbs longer than normal, and their eyes much larger than any human's. They wore fitted suits of an unusual material that seemed to shift colors in the light. One of the figures stepped forward and spoke. The language was unlike anything Alan had ever heard, flowing and musical, but completely foreign. "We come in peace," Captain Ward said clearly, slowly lowering her weapon but keeping it ready. The lead figure tilted its head, then raised a small device from its belt. After touching several symbols, it spoke again, this time in accented but understandable English. "We are the Kelthari. We have returned to recover our vessel and provisions." The silence that followed was profound. Alan found his voice first. "Returned? You've been here before?" The alien nodded, its movements eerily similar to human gestures. "Our expedition made emergency landing on your world approximately 30,000 of your years ago. We left our ship and supplies in stasis while we awaited rescue." Captain Ward stepped forward cautiously. "You've been inside the mountain all this time? Only our technology and provisions remained. Our crew entered stasis chambers after securing the vessel. The recovery protocol was activated when our homeworld finally detected our beacon." Greg let out a low whistle. 30,000 years. That's before human civilization. The alien studied them with those large, unsettling eyes. Your species was present but primitive when we arrived. We had limited interaction according to our protocols. More military vehicles were arriving now, creating a perimeter around the site. The aliens watched calmly, seemingly unworried by the show of force. I am Commander Zethral, the lead alien said. We require access to our vessel and the return of our provisions. We mean no harm to your world. Alan couldn't help but ask the question burning in his mind. Did your presence here affect our development? Did you interact with early humans? Commander Zethral paused before answering. Our directive forbade interference with developing species. However, the emergency nature of our landing created complications. Captain Ward's radio crackled with orders from her superiors. She nodded and addressed the aliens. We need to establish proper diplomatic channels. This is a matter of global significance. We understand, the commander replied. However, our ship's systems are already reactivating. The process cannot be halted without risk. As if to emphasize this point, the ground trembled again. From deep within the mountain, lights flickered on, illuminating what was now clearly an enormous doorway. I think we're going to need more scientists, Alan said quietly to Captain Ward, and probably the president. The aliens conferred briefly in their own language before Zethral spoke again. We have been monitoring your communications since awakening. Your world has changed considerably. Your species has advanced much faster than anticipated. Greg looked up at the towering figures. Is that good or bad? That remains to be determined, the alien replied. But it is unexpected. More of the mountain face was dissolving now, revealing the true scale of what lay beneath. Not just a ship, but an entire complex that had been hidden for millennia. Technology that had waited patiently while humanity grew from cave dwellers to a spacefaring civilization was awakening. As night fell over Montana, lights from military vehicles and the alien ship created an otherworldly glow. News of the contact would soon spread across the globe. Humanity's understanding of its place in the universe was about to change forever. And deep within the newly exposed alien vessel, ancient systems continued to power up, sending signals to places beyond the stars. News of the aliens spread fast. By morning, the mountain was surrounded by military vehicles, science teams, and government officials. Large barriers kept curious onlookers and press away, but everyone knew something big was happening. Dr. Olivia Morgan arrived by helicopter, clutching her bag of research materials. As one of the country's top archaeologists specializing in prehistoric human cultures, she had been called in to help understand how the alien visit might have affected early human development. Dr. Morgan, thank you for coming so quickly, Alan said, meeting her at the landing pad. You won't believe what we're seeing. Try me, she said with a smile. I've spent my career studying cave paintings of strange beings that nobody could explain. Frank Collins, the government liaison assigned to the situation, joined them. Dr. Morgan, I'll need you to sign these papers before we proceed. Everything you see is classified. After completing the paperwork, Alan led Olivia toward the mountain opening. The entrance had grown larger overnight as more of the rock face dissolved. The massive doorway now revealed parts of what was clearly a spacecraft. The Kelthari say their ship suffered catastrophic damage during something called an ion storm, Alan explained as they walked. They made an emergency landing here during what we would call the Upper Paleolithic period. During the time of early Homo sapiens, Olivia whispered. This changes everything we know about human history. Inside the mountain, lights glowed along alien corridors that had been dark for millennia. Technician Eric Bradley was carefully documenting every piece of technology they found, his face showing both excitement and concern. Some of this tech is reactivating on its own, Eric told them. It's like the whole ship is waking up piece by piece. They entered a large chamber where 3 of the Kelthari stood around a glowing console. Commander Zethral turned as the humans entered. Dr. Morgan, welcome, the alien said. We understand you study the ancient cultures of your species. Olivia tried to hide her surprise at being addressed directly. Yes, I specialize in Upper Paleolithic human development and culture. Then perhaps you can help us understand how much interaction occurred, Zethral said. Our records from that time are incomplete due to damage sustained during landing. The alien brought up a holographic display showing what appeared to be ancient humans. The images were so clear and detailed that Olivia gasped. These were recorded by our survey team before the emergency landing, Zethral explained. We had strict non-interference protocols, but after the crash, some contact was unavoidable as we sought shelter and assessed damage. Captain Ward entered the chamber with another military officer. Commander, we need to discuss the power surges your ship is causing. They're affecting electrical systems across 3 states. Unavoidable, another Kelthari said. This one introduced as Velashen, their scientific officer. The reactivation sequence must complete. Your power grid is primitive but sufficient for our needs. That's not how this works, Ward said firmly. You can't just drain our resources without coordination. Tension filled the room until Frank Collins stepped forward. Perhaps we can work out an agreement. A knowledge exchange, perhaps. Outside, the main chamber, Olivia pulled Alan aside. I need to show you something, she said, opening her tablet. These are cave paintings found just 20 miles from here. I've been studying them for years. The images showed tall, thin figures with large heads standing among humans. Above them was a curved shape that looked remarkably like the vessel they were now standing in. I always thought they were symbolic or spiritual drawings, she said. But now, Alan studied the images carefully. We need to find that cave. It might tell us more about what really happened when they were here. Back in the main chamber, Eric was becoming increasingly excited as he examined alien technology. Some of these components look familiar, he told Captain Ward quietly. Like, I've seen the basic design concepts before, but more primitive versions. What are you saying? Ward asked. I'm saying some human technology might have been inspired by their lost equipment. If pieces of their tech were found over the years. Their conversation was interrupted when alarms began to sound throughout the complex. Kelthari rushed to various stations as screens lit up with warning symbols. What's happening? Frank demanded. Commander Zethral looked concerned. The ship's primary systems are now online and performing a full planetary scan. It has detected changes. What kind of changes? Captain Ward asked, her hand moving instinctively to her weapon. Your species has advanced far beyond expected parameters, Velashen said, studying the displays. And the planet's ecosystem has been significantly altered. The ship is trying to reconcile these changes with its original survey data. Olivia stepped forward. In 30,000 years, a lot has changed. Humans have built civilizations, developed, technology spread across the planet. Yes, Commander Zethral said slowly, and that concerns us. According to our projections, your species should still be living in small tribal groups with basic tool use. Instead, you have split atoms and touched your moon. The aliens conferred among themselves in their musical language. The humans exchanged worried glances, unsure what this meant. Finally, Zethral turned back to them. We must contact our homeworld, immediately. This level of advancement was not anticipated for at least another 50,000 years. Is that a problem? Frank asked carefully. It might be, the commander replied. Rapid technological development without corresponding ethical evolution has led to the destruction of other worlds we've encountered. The tension in the room grew heavier. Captain Ward stood straighter, her military training evident in her posture. We've done pretty well for ourselves, she said firmly, and we have the right to develop at our own pace. Velashen seemed more sympathetic than the commander. The question is not your right to develop, but whether there was outside influence. If our presence here accelerated your evolution beyond natural parameters, we bear responsibility. We should check the provision chambers, another Kelthari suggested, if any samples were lost during the crash. This comment caused visible concern among all the aliens. Commander Zethral quickly ordered several Kelthari to inspect other areas of the ship. What provisions? Alan asked. What are you looking? 4. Our ship carried biological and technological samples from many worlds, Vela Shen explained after a moment's hesitation. If any were released during the crash, Olivia's archaeological mind made the connection immediately. You think your samples might have affected our development? Changed our evolutionary path? The silence that followed was answer enough. The humans looked at each other as the implications sank in. Their entire understanding of human evolution might be wrong. Outside, more military vehicles arrived as word spread about the alien ship's increasing activity. Generators had been set up to handle the power demands, and scientists from around the country were being flown in. And deep in the mountain, ancient secrets waited to be revealed. Secrets that might completely rewrite the story of humanity's rise. The operation to excavate the alien ship grew larger each day. Heavy machinery carefully removed rock and soil as more of the massive vessel was revealed. Dr. Nathan Pierce, a leading physicist, arrived to study the Kelthari technology. His expertise in quantum mechanics made him the perfect person to try to understand how the alien devices worked. This material shouldn't exist, Nathan said, examining a piece of the ship's hull. It defies our understanding of molecular structure. Vela Shen, the Kelthari scientific officer who had shown the most interest in humans, watched him work. Our material science advanced beyond atomic manipulation many thousands of your years ago. Yet some of this looks familiar, Nathan said, pointing to a control panel they had uncovered. The basic design principles resemble some of our own, technology just far more advanced. Vela Shen hesitated before responding. We have been reviewing our inventory. Several pieces of equipment were unaccounted for after the emergency landing. It is possible some items were lost outside the ship. This confession confirmed what many of the human scientists had begun to suspect. If early humans had found alien technology, even damaged pieces, it might have inspired human innovation in subtle ways throughout history. Inside the mountain, more chambers of the ship were becoming accessible as systems reactivated. One large room contained what appeared to be storage units, each the size of a small car. Captain Ward watched nervously as the Kelthari opened them one by one. What exactly are you looking for? She asked Commander Zethral. Our expedition carried samples of plant and animal life from 17 different worlds, the commander explained. Each contained in stasis fields. We need to confirm none were compromised during our long dormancy. The implications worried everyone. If alien biological samples had escaped onto Earth thousands of years ago, they might have altered the planet's ecosystem in ways nobody had ever imagined. Outside the secure perimeter, a woman named Lisa Bennett sat in her car with a high-powered camera. As a journalist for a major news network, she had managed to get closer to the site than any other reporter. The official government story about geological research wasn't fooling anyone. She had spent 3 days interviewing locals about the strange lights and military presence. With careful timing, Lisa slipped past a changing security patrol and made her way closer to the excavation site. What she saw through her camera lens made her gasp. The massive alien ship was now partly exposed, its smooth hull gleaming in the sunlight, and walking among the human workers were tall, blue-skinned beings. Lisa took dozens of photos before finding a spot with cell service. Within minutes, her images were uploaded to her network's servers. By evening, the whole world would know about the aliens in Montana. Back at the ship, Secretary of Defense William Rogers arrived by helicopter. The situation had become too significant for lower-level oversight. He was immediately taken to meet Commander Zethral. This is now a matter of national security, Rogers told the alien leader. We need full disclosure about your technology and intentions. We intend only to recover our vessel and return to space. Zethral replied calmly. However, we must first complete our investigation into how our presence may have affected your world. The conversation was interrupted when Frank Collins rushed in. Sir, we have a problem. Images of the Kelthari and their ship are all over the internet. A reporter got through security. The secretary's face darkened with anger. Find her and contain this. Now. But it was too late. News of the aliens spread across the globe within hours. World leaders demanded information. Religious groups proclaimed everything from doomsday to salvation, and ordinary people everywhere tried to process the reality that humans were not alone in the universe. As night fell, Dr. Nathan Pierce made a breakthrough. Working with Eric Bradley, he had managed to access parts of the alien database. "Look at this," he told Alan and Olivia. "These are star charts of our entire galaxy, and here, records of thousands of other planets with life." Olivia studied the displays with wonder. "According to this, Earth was just one of many worlds they've studied. We weren't special to them at all." "Maybe not then," Alan said, "but something about us caught their attention. Why else would they be so concerned about our development?" In another part of the ship, Velashen showed Dr. Morgan a series of recordings. They appeared to be observations of early humans going about their daily lives, hunting and creating tools. "These humans found one of our team members who was injured after the crash," Velashen explained. "Instead of attacking, they helped. It was unexpected behavior for a species at your evolutionary stage." The recording showed primitive humans caring for an injured Keltari. They brought food and water, created shelter, and tried to communicate through simple gestures. "We always thought compassion was uniquely human," Olivia whispered. "But you saw it as unusual. Many primitive species care for their own kind," Velashen said. "Few extend that care to completely different species. It was the first indication your kind might be different." Their conversation was interrupted by alarms throughout the ship. The floor vibrated beneath their feet as systems powered up without command. "What's happening?" Olivia asked, steadying herself against a wall. "The ship is connecting to our orbital network," Velashen explained, looking concerned. "It should not be doing this automatically." Throughout the complex, lights flickered and strange humming sounds grew louder. Outside, power outages began spreading across several states as the ship drew massive amounts of energy from the electrical grid. Captain Ward and her team rushed to the main control chamber where Commander Zethral and several other Kelthari worked frantically at control panels. "Shut it down," Ward demanded. "You're causing blackouts across the western United States." "We are trying," Zethral replied, genuine concern in his voice. "The ship's AI is executing recovery protocols we did not authorize. It has detected our presence and is attempting to complete its original mission." On screens around the chamber, data streamed in alien symbols. Images of Earth from orbit appeared, comparing current conditions to those from 30,000 years ago. The differences were being analyzed at incredible speed. Secretary Rogers entered with more military personnel. "What is the meaning of this? Are you attacking our infrastructure?" "No," Commander Zethral insisted. "This is an automated process. The ship believes it must complete its original survey mission before departure. In orbit, satellites detected unusual energy readings. Something was scanning the entire planet, collecting massive amounts of data about Earth's biosphere, atmosphere, and human civilization. Inside the mountain, the excavated portions of the ship began to hum with power. Systems dormant for millennia came fully online, their purpose still unclear to the worried humans watching. And somewhere in the deepest part of the vessel, something else was waking up. Something the Kelthari had not yet told their human hosts about. President Laura Phillips sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by advisors. On screens around the room, images of the alien ship and the Kelthari played on a loop. The news had spread worldwide, causing both wonder and panic. "What are our options?" she asked General Harold Carter, who had just arrived from Montana. "The aliens claim they mean no harm," Carter said, "but their ship is drawing massive power and scanning our planet. I recommend we take control of the situation immediately." "By force?" the president asked. "If necessary. We've already moved advanced weapons into position." Dr. Keith Mitchell, a xenobiologist rushed to Washington from the site, spoke up. "Madam, President, using force would be a terrible mistake. The Kelthari technology is far beyond ours, and they've shown no hostile intent. Yet," General Carter added, "we've discovered they've been collecting data on our military capabilities." The president sighed. "Get me a direct line to their leader." I want to speak with this Commander Zethral personally. Back at the Montana site, tension was high. The ship had caused power outages across 5 states before the Kelthari managed to partly contain the automatic systems. Military personnel, now outnumbered scientists in many of the alien spaces, had been restricted. Tech Varan, the Kelthari security officer, confronted Commander Zethral in a private chamber. "The humans are positioning weapons around our vessel," he said in their native language. "They cannot be trusted." "They fear what they do not understand," Zethral replied. "As would we in their position." "They have already taken some of our technology," Tech Varan insisted. "I have detected human devices that clearly incorporate elements from our lost equipment. They reversed engineered our tools while we slept." Zethral considered this information carefully. "Perhaps this explains their unusual rate of advancement, but it does not change our situation. We must complete our assessment before the Council arrives." In the ship's biological containment lab, Dr. Mitchell worked alongside Velashen. They had discovered something troubling. A pathogen in one of the sample containers showed disturbing compatibility with human biology. "This shouldn't be possible," Keith said, looking at the test results. "This microorganism is from another star system, yet it could potentially infect humans. Unless—" Velashen started, then stopped. "Unless what?" Keith pressed. "Unless there is some shared biological heritage," the alien scientist finally said. "We are investigating the possibility that some of our biological samples may have been released during our emergency landing. If early humans were exposed..." The implications stunned Keith into silence. Human evolution might have been influenced by alien microorganisms. Meanwhile, in another section of the ship, Alan and Olivia had discovered a large chamber filled with containers. Each held seeds and biological samples from distant worlds. Their ship wasn't just a research vessel, Alan realized. It was carrying materials to seed other planets. "A kind of galactic Noah's Ark," Olivia agreed, carefully examining the ancient storage systems. "Many worlds share biological patterns," a Kelthari technician explained, joining them. "We collected samples to preserve biodiversity. Some worlds we visited later suffered catastrophic climate changes." "And did any of these samples escape when you crashed?" Olivia asked directly. The technician's large eyes blinked slowly. "We are still checking our inventory. But yes, it appears some containment units were damaged. The ship's logs show emergency protocols were activated to neutralize any escaped materials, but the process may have been incomplete." In the main control room, Commander Zethral received an urgent communication. A holographic display activated, showing another Kelthari, older with deeper blue skin and elaborate markings on its face. "Elder Kethmir," Zethral said with a respectful bow. "We did not expect contact so soon." "The Council is concerned," the elder replied. "Your preliminary reports suggest significant anomalies in the development of the local species. We are sending an evaluation team immediately." "The humans have achieved space travel," Zethral reported. "They have split the atom, created global communication networks, and spread to every corner of their world." "Impossible," Kethmir stated flatly. "No species advances from stone tools to spaceflight in 30,000 years without outside influence. The Council fears our emergency protocols failed." "That is our assessment as well," Zethral admitted. "But there is more. These humans show unusual traits, creativity, adaptability, and technological innovation beyond expected parameters." The conversation was interrupted when Secretary Rogers entered with General Carter and a squad of soldiers. "Commander, we need to talk," Rogers said firmly. "The President of the United States wishes to speak with you directly." As this conversation began, deep within the ship's core, the final systems were coming online. A massive database was updating, itself with the new information about Earth and its dominant species. Comparisons were being made between ancient humans and modern ones. Analysis of evolutionary paths and technological development ran through complex algorithms, and the ship's conclusion was becoming clear. Something had interfered with humanity's natural development. In a secure facility miles away, scientists were already studying pieces of Kelthari technology recovered from the site. Despite security protocols, some officials had ordered samples removed for separate analysis. One such device, apparently a simple tool by alien standards, contained energy manipulation technology beyond human understanding. General Carter watched as researchers tried to activate it. "How soon can we replicate this?" "Sir, we're not even sure what it does," a scientist replied. "The power source alone is unlike anything we've seen." "Find out," Carter ordered. "National security depends on it." Back at the ship, the communication with President Phillips was not going well. The Kelthari were reluctant to share certain technologies, citing concerns about how humans might use them. "Your species shows remarkable technical achievement," Commander Zethral told the president, "but your ethical development concerns us. You still wage war on each other. You damage your own ecosystem." "We have our problems," President Phillips acknowledged, "but we're working on them. And frankly, Commander, if your ship accidentally changed our evolutionary path, you bear some responsibility for helping us now." This statement caused visible discomfort among the Kelthari present. Zethral conferred briefly with Velashen before, responding, "We cannot confirm or deny such influence without further study. However, if our presence did affect your development, the Kelthari Council would be obligated to provide guidance." The tension in the room was broken by sudden alarms. The ship's system surged again, screens flashing with urgent symbols. At the same moment, sensors around the world detected a new energy signature in Earth orbit. "What's happening?" Secretary Rogers demanded. Commander Zethral looked up at the readings, his expression grave even by alien standards. "The Council evaluation team has arrived," he said. "They will decide humanity's status in the galactic community and whether our interference requires correction." The sky above Montana glowed with strange lights as the Kelthari evaluation ship entered Earth's atmosphere. It was much larger than the buried vessel, shaped like a flattened disk with glowing blue rings around its edge. Military jets scrambled to monitor it but kept their distance on direct orders from President Phillips. "We cannot risk hostile action," she had told General Carter. "One wrong move could start an interstellar incident." The evaluation ship hovered silently above the mountain site. A beam of light shot down, connecting with the partly excavated original vessel. Data flowed between the ships, 30,000 years of history being shared in minutes. Inside the mountain, Commander Zethral prepared to meet the Council representatives. "I must warn you all," he told the assembled humans. "The Council will be conservative in their assessment." "What does that mean?" Secretary Rogers asked. "They will prioritize galactic stability over individual species concerns," Zethral explained. "If they determine our accidental influence significantly altered your natural development, they may recommend limitations." Dr. Morgan stepped forward. "You mean they might try to hold us back? Stop our progress?" "That is one possibility," Zethral admitted. "The Council follows strict protocols regarding developing species." The beam of light widened, and 3 tall figures materialized in the chamber. They were clearly Kelthari, but their skin was a deeper blue, almost purple, and they wore ornate garments that seemed to shift and flow like water. The center figure, clearly the leader, had intricate patterns etched into their skin. "Elder Kethmir," Commander Zethral said with a deep bow. "Welcome to Earth." The elder barely acknowledged the greeting, looking instead at the humans with large, unblinking eyes. "These are the descendants?" Kethmir asked, studying them carefully. "They have advanced far beyond projections." United Nations Secretary General Diego Vasquez, who had arrived that morning, stepped forward. "We represent Earth's nations," he said with dignity. "We welcome peaceful contact with your people." Kethmir nodded slightly. "Your diplomatic protocols are noted. However, we must first determine the extent of contamination before formal relations can be established." "Contamination?" President Phillips repeated, joining the group. "That's a concerning word, Elder." "It is accurate," Kethmir replied. "Our preliminary analysis confirms that biological and technological elements from our expedition affected your species' development. This violates our most sacred directive. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Kelthari viewed humanity's entire civilization as a mistake, an accidental side effect of their crashed ship. Dr. Angela Wright, an anthropologist, who had been studying the Kelthari language and culture, saw the growing tension and stepped forward. "With respect, Elder Kethmir," she said carefully, "even if your presence influenced our development, that doesn't make our civilization less valid or worthy of respect." The elder turned to her, those large eyes seeming to look through her. "You misunderstand. The concern is not about worth, but about natural order. Species must develop according to their own path, not one altered by outside influence." "But that's exactly what happened," Alan said, joining the conversation. "Whatever influence your ship had on early humans, the path we took was our own. We made our own choices, built our own civilizations." Professor Martin Lewis, a historian who had been documenting everything since the ship's discovery, added his voice. "Human history is filled with innovation and adaptation. Even if we found pieces of your technology, we had to understand it ourselves, integrate it into our knowledge. That's purely human." Kethmir conferred with the other council members, in their musical language. The humans waited anxiously. General Carter shifted closer to President Phillips, whispering something about military options, but she silenced him with a look. Finally, Kethmir addressed them again. "We will conduct a full assessment. The Council requires DNA samples from various human populations and access to your historical records." "And what happens after your assessment?" President Phillips asked directly. "That depends on our findings," Kethmir replied. "If the contamination is minimal, we may simply monitor your further development. If significant..." The unfinished sentence hung in the air. Vela Shen, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "Elder, with respect, I have studied these humans closely. Their advancement cannot be explained solely by our accidental influence. They possess inherent qualities that accelerated their development." "Explain," Kethmir demanded. "Their adaptability exceeds any species we have encountered," Velashin said. "Their creativity, their problem-solving abilities, their determination. These are natural traits, not results of our presence." To demonstrate, Velashin activated a display showing human achievements throughout history, from early tools to space exploration, from primitive medicine to genetic engineering. Even accounting for possible technological contamination, the rate of innovation is extraordinary, Velashin concluded. "I believe they would have reached this level eventually, even without our influence." The elder considered this, then turned back to the humans. "We will need proof of these inherent capabilities." "A test?" Dr. Wright asked. "Yes," Kethmir confirmed. "A challenge to demonstrate your species' natural abilities." Over the next 3 days, humans and Kelthari worked together on a series of challenges designed by the Council. Engineers tackled alien technology puzzles. Scientists worked on biological and physical problems. Diplomats and linguists engaged in complex negotiations and translations. Throughout it all, humanity showed exactly what Velashin had described: extraordinary adaptability, creativity, and determination. Where Kelthari expected humans to fail, they instead found innovative solutions that sometimes surprised even the ancient aliens. On the 4th day, Elder Kethmir called a formal meeting. Both ships were now fully connected, and the original vessel was nearly ready to depart Earth after its 30,000-year stay. "We have reached our conclusion," the elder announced. "While there was indeed contamination, both biological and technological, it was not the primary factor in your rapid advancement. Your species possesses natural traits that would have eventually led to similar development, though perhaps over a longer timeline." Relief spread through the human delegation. President Phillips stepped forward. "And what does this mean for Earth's relationship with your people going forward?" "The Council recognizes humanity as an emerging spacefaring civilization," Kethmir stated. "You will be offered limited access to the galactic community with appropriate guidance." "Limited access?" General Carter questioned. "Full integration must be earned," the elder explained. But we will establish an embassy on your world and begin cultural exchange. Greg Hawkins, the rancher who had first reported strange lights in the mountain, found himself suddenly important when the Keltari requested his land as the site for their embassy. Better than raising cattle, he said with a smile when asked about the change. As both ships prepared to depart, the original vessel to return to its homeworld and the council ship to remain in orbit as an observation post, Commander Zethral met with Alan, Olivia, and the other humans who had been there from the beginning. You will find your world changed by our visit, the commander said, but know that you have earned the respect of a civilization millions of years older than yours. That is no small achievement. Will we see you again? Olivia asked. Yes, Zethral replied. I have requested assignment to the Earth Embassy. There is much more to learn about your fascinating species. As the ships rose into the sky, humanity looked up with new awareness of their place in the universe. The stars were no longer just distant lights but homes to civilizations they would one day meet as equals, and deep in human DNA, the subtle changes made 30,000 years ago continued to express themselves in the very qualities that had impressed the Kelthari: adaptability, creativity, and an unquenchable desire to reach for the stars.